I'm 30 years old. I got up to 240 pounds. I needed diapers. Was a mess of a human being. And one night, it was just too much drugs in my system. It was just a massive drug overdose. Meanwhile, I'm on the other side of life, exploring the bounds of the universe, reconnecting back in with source energy.
The episode you're about to watch has been republished. My podcast channel reaches a lot more people now, and there's certain episodes that have slipped under the radar, and I wanted to bring them up for your attention because I truly feel they are worth listening to. So please be sure to let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. And of course, let's continue to connect. Let me know where you are in the world and where you're listening and tuning in from. I love reading it. It's amazing, isn't it, that we can do this? And the other thing I want to say as well is find out where we are if you want to put your spiritual boots on and come and join us at one of our 5-day retreats or one-day events around the world. Links are below as well if you want to find out more what we're up to. Much love from me. Enjoy. Beautiful. Alysa, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Guy. I'm so happy to be here with you and your audience today.
Thank you. I'm very excited. Like we were talking off air, you know, it's a regular occurrence. People finding guests and people approaching and coming on the podcast. But as soon as I landed on your website and connected with you and what you do, it was like, wow, I have no doubt an amazing conversation will come out today. And seeing all the YouTube videos you put out there and the content and the way you speak and the passion just oozes through. So I have no doubt this podcast will shine through as well today. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm super excited for our conversation about all things awakening.
Yeah. And you said you were in Hawaii when recording this. And the question I ask everyone is, and quite common, is that if you were at a dinner party and somebody asked you what you did for a living, what would you say in Hawaii?
In Hawaii or wherever I am, I'd say the same thing, which is I help people expand their consciousness and ultimately remember that you're divine in physical form, walking around here on the planet.
Wow. And what kind of response do you get, especially with the word expanded consciousness? Because the one thing I'll add to that is from just observance and from my own experience, you think you're conscious all the time and you think your conscious is already expanded, but the ego is obviously in the way quite often.
Isn't that the truth? Absolutely, right? You think back to when you were 20 and you think, oh, I was so conscious, I was so awake, I was so aware. And then you think back going, oh my gosh, I had no clue of life whatsoever. So yeah, when I say that out loud to people, and I say it all the time because people ask me what I do, and it's a real range. Some people look at me like the deer in headlights, that,
Mm-hmm.
And some people, and this is what's really cool, Guy, is some people, more people than you think, in different age groups, in their 70s and 80s and 60s, will say, I totally get that. Tell me more. I want to learn more. Something's happening to me and I don't know what it is. And I feel like I've been told I'm a light worker and I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Help me. So what I think is really cool is people that you wouldn't necessarily suspect are waking up right now. And that's really amazing. And then I'll have kids, teenagers, I'll say it to them and they'll say, oh, I totally get that. I mean, I'm on that journey now too. I think I'm a star seed. I think I'm and they'll start talking and it really opens up a conversation. And I think people are getting it.
Getting it. Yeah. I just want to explore that expanded consciousness before we kind of dive into your own journey and everything. How would you describe that then to us? Like, what are the benefits? What are we exploring here? And how does that show up in our lives? Because quite often as well, from somebody, like I run workshops at the moment once a fortnight, and we're probably now in front of 150 people once a fortnight, which is incredible. But quite often at first, people are coming in just for the experience and then and then go back to their old lives. And we're doing our utmost to help people nurture in the experiences to improve their lives ultimately and start to dig deep, So I'm interested on your views or explanations around that, because everyone has different ways of saying it and thinking about it and living it.
Yeah, well, they're showing me already a picture of Dorothy from the movie, what is it, The Wizard of Oz, when she is thinking these things about her life and she's thinking she's not enough and she's thinking she's got to just make it to meet Oz, the great and wonderful Oz. And then she gets there and she realizes that Oz is just a man, kind of a dumpy man behind a curtain with no special magical powers, except he's got a very big microphone that makes his voice sound very cool. So I think they're showing that to me because my version of expanded consciousness is really being able to hold ideas about life and the nature of reality and who you are that was different than what we've been told. And what we were told here in America mostly is that you are separated from God, you're separated from the universe, you're separated from everything around you. You are basically your ego walking around, and it's about how much money you can make, it's about how much success you can have, it's about what school you went to, and it's about, you know, how many things you can accumulate. And so my theory on expanding your consciousness is understanding that you can now see behind the curtain and that you have access to so much richness of life. You have access to so many mystical and delicious experiences that if you let yourself expand your consciousness to know that it's more than just about the things, it's more than about the money, it's more than about your job or what you do, but that you are this multi-dimensional being who, if you use all of your heart and your mind and your frequency, you can really connect in with divine consciousness, with God consciousness. You can get access to information. I mean, hey, Einstein used to do it. Tesla used to do it. All the great inventors that brought through amazing ideas did what it is that I now teach. So, you know, that's kind of what I think about expanding your consciousness is beyond what you were taught life really is, and being open to everything and really closed off to nothing.
I love it. I love it. No, I couldn't agree more. And you opened a loop there, which I have to ask you a question. So there's two questions, though. The first one is, who are they? When you spoke about they twice. And the second question is why don't we already know that we're this multidimensional being having a human experience? So they're the two loops that you open. So I'll let you own the floor.
Okay. So the they is my guidance team. I work with energies. And so I work with mostly divine light energy. And I got to have direct contact with that. And we can talk about that later. But it comes in as a group energy. So I call it they, because it's really a lot of different energies blended together. And then the second question you asked me, I'm so sorry. Would you say it again?
That why don't we already know that we're this divine being?
I actually think we do come in knowing we're a divine being. If you look at babies, right? You have
Hmm.
a beautiful child. If you look at a child as a baby, they actually think anything's possible. I mean, you have to stop them from jumping off something because they think it's totally possible that they're going to make it. You know, they don't have these limits and restrictions and these filters. So I personally think we come in knowing that we are multidimensional, but we get trained out of it very quickly with the programs that we are launched into on this planet. And part of what I think is happening on a global scale right now is that we are breaking through those programs of what it means to be a human being. And that's not always easy to do.
No, it can be terrifying as well because we're so conditioned to the way we are being, and anything else is an unknown, and the unknown terrifies us generally, you know? Yeah. So I'm fascinated because you clearly, you clearly resonate and have this ability to, I guess, be an expanded consciousness and expanded awareness and allow information to come through. And that's certainly, I feel, an ability that we all have if we're willing to develop it. And I'm intrigued to know was there a point in your life when this work didn't exist? Was it like completely foreign? Did you have to go through your, I guess, dark night of the soul at an early age to come out and then evolve this work for yourself? Because I know so many people love the idea of it and go, oh, and yet there's a process I'm finding, even on my own journey. So, yeah.
Totally a process. And the answer is yes and no. I was fortunate. I came into this planet, and as soon as I could talk, I started telling my mother about my other mother in San Francisco. Although I couldn't pronounce San Francisco, I called it San Francisco or something cute like that, like a 2.5-year-old would. And my mother will tell you that I would describe my house and this other mother, and she could very much understand that I had a remembrance of a different life, and she got that. And so my mom was great in that she never shut down my skills or my gifts, but the rest of the world did. Okay, so even though my mom was very open, my mom taught me. I remember when I was 7, my mom handed me the book as I was starting to read the Silva Method. And she taught me the Silva Method, and she trained me how to go into alpha and all of that. And so mom was very open, but the rest of the world, school gets you, they tell you you can't be this multidimensional person. You're maybe another parent, or maybe your news media, your television tells you, the Cosby Show tells you, it's it's not about all that. It's about what clothes you're wearing. It's about how cool you are in school. And so I started to shut it down. Although I knew I was here for something different. I knew I had these skills. I was always psychic. But I think everybody is. I had the luxury of my mom never totally clamping down on that, but many people haven't had that luxury. They get totally clamped down. So then, though, I went into corporate America, and you just can't be really psychic in corporate America and survive. You can't be very sensitive in corporate America and survive well. So I remember turning down the dial on my skills. And how people do that, by the way, is they start drinking, they start smoking, they start watching too much TV, they start eating garbage food, and all of that acts as static in your channel so that you don't get accurate messages. You can't trust your own intuition. You can't trust your guidance because it's so muddy in there. And so I did all that. And that's how it really started for me. And then, yes, I did. I had to have my dark night of the soul.
Right.
And, it's one of those things that I'm so grateful for, but it was one of the hardest things ever.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd love to ask you a question at that point, if you could take yourself back to being not looking after your body in those ways. And, look, I'm from Wales. I played rugby and drank Guinness. I'm fully aware of cultural influences, let's say, to say the least. Was it just something that crept up at you, or was there like a pain that wouldn't go away that you couldn't articulate that kept nurturing those behaviors? I'm fascinated, because I think as well we all fall in love with ideas of changing things and doing things, but quite often we're like the boiling frog, aren't we? Until it's so hot and unbearable, we then make the change.
Yeah, that's totally it for me. And I started early. I was smoking cigarettes at 10, and
Wow.
I would go around and I'd pick up cigarette butts off the street and I'd smoke them. And I was at 14, I started smoking marijuana. And so it was that slow boil, that unhealthy behaviors. But then I got into corporate America, and I still smoked, and now I just had more money, right? So I had a nice bottle of Cabernet with my steak and my cigarettes. And so it just changed, the flavor of it changed a little bit. But I ultimately had some traumas happen to me in my childhood and in my early adulthood that I would get so anxious, Guy. I would just feel this incredible anxiety. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd have panic attacks. And so I thought that the way to deal with that was to drink a little more, have more cigarettes, have a little more caffeine. And I don't even know if I understood that I wasn't feeling my feelings.
Huh.
I just was trying to survive the day. Just get me through this day, get me into another day. That's all I really care about. But I didn't understand. Look, there was no training when I was a kid on feeling your feelings or what the heck a feeling was. Most kids my age, and I'm 48, most people my age were brought up in a household that you had to be a certain way. And if you weren't that certain way, then you weren't really accepted. And so you quickly learned, I just have to conform. I have to do good at school. I have to be good. I can't act out in any way. And if I feel like I need to act out, I might as well just bury that deep because there's no outlet for it. So that's kind of how I grew up. So it was just a matter of, well, I'm just going to soothe myself the best way I know how. And I watched my dad, bless his heart, drink and smoke. And I thought, well, that probably works. And so let me do that too.
From your experience, not diving into traumas, but like in general, those stored emotions, those traumas, those things that we have on, because trauma seems such a powerful word, but I think somebody snatching something out of your hand as a 3-year-old and you not processing it properly can influence your adulthood. How much do you feel that is actually affecting our behaviors and playing out in adult stories, but we just haven't put the two together?
I love this question so much. So I feel like this is a multi-layered question. As a human being, it is traumatic to come down here and be human. You're a multi-dimensional spirit and your vibration's so high. So as somebody who's died and actually gone to the other side myself, I can tell you the vibrational dissonance of that. So just coming down here in your spirit, inhabiting this body, I call it a body vehicle. So being the driver of this body vehicle, that is traumatic. You don't even have to have anyone snatch something from you when you're 3 and take away your toy. It's traumatic being here on the planet. You come into a body that has trauma embedded in your DNA. So even if you never got bit by a spider, you might have an irrational fear in your body of spiders because your grandpa's grandpa got bitten by a spider. I mean, we can mark DNA for 7 generations back in epigenetics on both sides. So it's traumatic coming into the body just in general. And then we have the big T traumas, the huge things, the horrific stuff that you think, oh God, I don't know if I'll recover from this. And then you have the little T trauma where maybe you didn't get the job that you wanted, or maybe somebody said something about you, or maybe you had something small that you couldn't afford, or you couldn't get what you wanted in some way, or someone makes a mean comment, and that all racks up. And I think, to your point, many people don't understand the level of trauma to which we are healing through. And ultimately, I feel the pathway through is to feel it, to heal it. You probably say that all the time in your retreats, right? You got to feel it to heal it.
Yeah, we say reveal, feel, and heal.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So when did you realize you started to feel it? So you spoke about, I'm going to raise it now, that you died and had this opportunity to experience the totality of yourself, maybe. What happened? Because that's not a normal everyday conversation. Oh yeah, I died, I had this experience, I come back, and life carries on.
Right. Yeah. And I tend to normalize it because it feels very normal for me. And so what happened to me is I was working in corporate America as a sales trainer, and I loved that job. It was amazing. And I got a promotion into what I call the gray cubicle of death. And your listeners can they might be in the gray cubicle of death right now as they're listening. It's that cube in corporate America where it's competitive. They want you to just work. You're trying to scramble to get ahead. It's a lot of hours, and no one really is caring about your well-being at all. And in that environment, I already had some health issues going on but the added stress and the pulled away, filling up my soul work that I was doing in the training room, because it was so soul filling. So I no longer had that. And now I'm in the stress pressure cooker of corporate America and management and moving on up levels. And my immune system just said, I'm done. And so I got really, really sick. And I started going to doctors to figure out what's going on with me. What's wrong with me? Why isn't my body working well? Why do I hurt so bad? And doctor after doctor after doctor. And at each doctor stop, I would get medication and diagnosis, medication, diagnosis, medication. And it kept going and going and going and going until pretty soon I was so sick. I felt like, God, I'm going to probably have to quit my job at corporate. I was now using a walker to get around. I had gained all this weight because one of the drugs they put me on was steroids. So I went from being about 105 pounds to almost 195 pounds. And I found this doctor who said, I can heal you. I know exactly what's going on with you. I can heal you. And you got to understand, I had diagnoses of multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. Like the list went on and on and on. IBS, celiac, right? It just kept going and going and going. So all these autoimmune diseases. And she said, I know what's going on with you. I can heal you. But we got to install a PICC line, and we've got to just kill every bug that's in your system, because you've got viruses and bugs. So I did. I got the PICC line installed. I went on this super expensive medicine, and they put me on this end-of-life pain drugs. You've probably heard of it, fentanyl. It's all the rage, and it kills people. And so I was on this incredible drug cocktail, and I was sort of riding that fine line every day of death and life. And at this time, I'm 30 years old. I got up to 240 pounds. I needed diapers. I was so unfunctional. I was a mess of a human being. And I was married at the time to an angel of a human being. And one night, it was just too much drugs in my system. And he found me on the toilet, completely lips blue, nails blue, not breathing, my face just all, he thought I had had a massive stroke and died, but it was just a massive drug overdose. And so that was sort of his experience finding me. Meanwhile, I'm on the other side of life, exploring the bounds of the universe, reconnecting back in with source energy. I got to see so much that I can't even begin to describe, but I can try. And it was incredible. Dying is like being born into a whole new world and level of consciousness that's beyond, you'll be the smartest person you've ever met without a body. And it feels so amazing. It's bliss and love and joy encompasses all of you. And I always say when I speak about this, it's the most physical thing I've ever done without a body, because it felt physically palpable. My consciousness could stretch in all these different places, but I knew I was looking down, and I knew I don't have a body here.
Just for everyone listening, you might be saying, what the hell's going on halfway through the podcast? We actually had technical issues and decided to pick it up 2 days later, or even more than that. But I have no doubt we will not repeat ourselves in any shape or form, because we're that alert on this podcast. So, Alysa, I want to ask you, because you were at the point where you were describing yourself, where you had your near-death experience, and that you said it was as physical and real, but without the body. And I'd love you to expand upon what actually happened, even though you did say you couldn't describe it, it's beyond describing, but to give us a sense of what you actually went through, and even maybe the time, over what time it happened, if you have any concept of time. Was it minutes, days, weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, popped out of my body, and many people have that experience where they float above their body for a little while and they'll look at themselves. But I didn't. Because I died of a massive medical overdose of drugs and all sorts of cocktails and that sort of thing, not actual drink cocktails, but a drug cocktail. I bypassed a lot of that stuff. And so I just popped out into a really high level of consciousness where I was sort of zooming towards this. It was almost like a group consciousness, but it wasn't like the bright lights of the pearly gates. I knew that I was going up into God consciousness or universal consciousness. And if you can imagine, have you ever seen that person with the security cameras and they've maybe got 200 or 300 security cameras in front of them and they're looking at that? What I felt at the time, like I said, it was so physical, but I looked down because I thought, well, this is weird. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. I didn't
Okay.
quite know I was dead yet. And I looked down and I realized I don't have a body. There's no body, but I felt so physical and I could stretch and I was stretching up, 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 up. And finally I got up to this. It was kind of like a physical energy in a light body form. It was this humongous consciousness. And imagine these each little circle is a computer camera, right? And in each little circle, I can dive my consciousness into that circle and see exactly and feel exactly what that circle is going through. And I'm talking planets, cosmoses, universes, bugs, weird alien beings that I can't even describe. I'm talking billions and billions and billions of points of consciousness I could dive and stretch my consciousness into. And I could move my consciousness in so many different directions and experience so many things at once. It was like, wow. So, to give you an analogy, it's like you looking through your eyes and your daughter's eyes and all of the people's in your retreats' eyes all at once, plus all the trees in the
Wow.
world, plus all the plants. It was so much consciousness coming through. And I was doing that and I kept lifting up, up, up. And I was exploring all the reaches of the universe. And at the same time, I got to see how the universe forms itself. So, in terms of light first, then sound, then sacred geometry, and on and on and on and on and on. And I started to understand the mathematics behind it. And I'm up there, no brain, but mind blown. And I'm exploring the farthest reaches of the universe. And it was the most loving, blissful, just every part of me, of which there was no physical part. But again, it felt palpable. It felt so physical. It felt like I was stretching my
Wow.
consciousness in a very physical way. But it was just absolutely benevolent and loving. And I felt in that moment, in those moments up there, I felt absorbed into this bigger one consciousness that was holding billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and trillions of universes and planets and things and beings. And it was so much, and it was absolutely brilliant and it felt so
Yeah.
good.
Did you at that point know you were still Alyssa? Like, or was it, is it like you've gone on holiday in an adventure, but you're still you, or was that fading? Was this real? Did that feel like a dream, your life?
I love this question. So people rarely don't ask me this question. So as I went up, I started to lose the Alyssa identity and remind me to tell you what happened when I came back. Because I got up so far, I started to completely disidentify with Alyssa at all. And I just knew, okay, I'm part of a bigger consciousness. And I spent a lot of time up there, it felt like to me, and I got to really see a lot of amazing things and explore. But then there was a point where I saw this one bit of consciousness. And now imagine I'd been exploring multiple things all at once, and I got distracted, and I thought, oh, this is pretty. It looks like planet Earth. I'm going to go check it out. So all of my consciousness then dove down in, and I popped out, and I looked around me, and now I'm down on what we would think would be planet Earth, except all of the sky was this olive drabby green color. And I realized now I'm back as Alysa, but I can't talk to anybody. I can go see people, but they don't know I'm there. And I didn't know until years later what this was. I read a book by Savannah Arienta called Frequency, and she literally described this olive drab world that I was in to a T. And what it is where people that die of tragic accidents, overdoses, and suicides go. And they go there to heal. And what ended up happening is I was there, and I ended up going to try to see people that I knew in life, and I would hang around them. And it felt very healing to me. By the way, I only wanted to go meet and see the people with addictions, because that's one of the ways that you kind of get your energy back, as you sort of suck off the energy of people that are like what you were. And I was hanging around, and I was going to visit people, and I had this group energy come to me, and the group energy said, hey, you can stay here as long as you want. It's going to be very healing for you, but you will not be able to come back into the Alysa body. If you want to come back into the Alysa body, you must know that it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. It's going to be a lot of hard work in front of you, but it'll be worth it. And I knew instantly, yes, okay, yes, I want to go back, And the minute I thought, because I can't speak, I had no body, but I thought yes, and then it was like somebody took me on top of the highest skyscraper and threw me off and dropped me, boom, down into my body. But it felt like hitting concrete. It was just so heavy and so hard and so dense. And I woke up, and I was like, doing one of those. They had given me Narcan already to block all the drug receptors in my body. And I woke up, and I'm in my bathroom, kind of slumped over. My husband's kneeling down at my side, and there's 20 EMTs in my bathroom. We say emergency workers. There's 20 emergency workers in my bathroom. And I look over at my husband, and, I had been dead for, they're not really sure how long, but some time enough to turn, lips blue, nails blue, turning blue, and my face was all saggy, and it didn't work. My mouth didn't work. So I turned to my husband and I say, honey, what are all these people doing here? And he goes, they're here for you, baby. So, then they start peppering me with questions because they know I'm back. And they asked me my address and all of these questions that I felt like I don't know these things. But then, Guy, they asked me my name. They said, what's your name? And I had no idea what my name was. And I remember thinking, gosh, this seems like a really important thing I should know. And the mood in the room changed very quickly when I didn't know my name. They were like, uh-oh, this is not good. This is not a good sign, obviously. And I leaned over to my husband and I said, honey, what's my name? And he goes, it's Alysa, baby. Because he's got, it's Alysa, baby. And I look back and I say to everybody, it's Alysa, baby. So that's when I woke up. But the story kind of continues from there, because I had so much drugs in my system that I ended up needing a second dose of Narcan, which they gave me in the ambulance. I passed again in the ambulance. They gave me that second dose. And then at that point, I woke up in the hospital, legs a-flailing, strapped down to a gurney. And that's the point when I realized my life is broken. What I've been trying to do to fix myself isn't working.
Did you have any more experiences during that time from coming back in the body, to the ambulance, to the hospital, of that expanded consciousness again?
Not as much as I once did. Like in the wagon, I knew I was dying, and I reached over for the guy. I'm like, I'm dying. I couldn't barely talk, but I'm like, I'm dying. And he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. He's like, keep breathing. I'm like, no, I'm dying. He's like, no, don't go on me, and then I popped out. But I think I, at that point, had so much going on that is still in my system that there was like a gap between getting up to the consciousness level of death versus staying in the body and being alive is what I feel. And some people who can do that consciously, they get more experience than if you're not very conscious, you don't get a whole lot of it.
Wow. And just to try and help listeners as well, when you have that such an intense experience and clearly so visceral and real in that moment, when you're back in your body, are you then like, shit, that really all happened? Or does that start to then fade and feel like the dream in reverse to what was happening as you were raising more to unity? You said that your life as Alysa was fading. And then when you came back in, is it the same in reverse? Or
I have goose chills, chicken skin everywhere when you say that, because that's exactly what happened. I felt so real and so alive and so one on the other side. And then it completely reversed. And all of that sort of vanishes when you come back here in the body. You lose most total connection with that expanded oneness consciousness. Now you're just here. And it wasn't, honestly, it took me about 5 years to fully integrate that whole near-death experience, because it was so much consciousness hitting me all at once. And I understood math that I don't have any way of knowing. And I understood laws of the universe that I had never understood. And all of my psychic gifts and skills and talents got cranked up on, 11 on the dial, way past 10. And so everything sort of got returned on, but I didn't know it right away when I came back. I mean, I'm then now in the hospital dealing with a whole host of physical symptoms and massive pain, because all of my pain receptors are now open. And I'm, you gotta remember, I'm 240 pounds. I hurt and I'm, not doing well. So yeah, I love that question though. It was totally juxtaposed. And the most alive I've ever felt is on the other side.
Did you tell your husband what happened off the bat, or was this something you kept to yourself? How did you then begin to work with where you were at after having an experience like that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he, I'm not married anymore, but he doesn't believe in any of that stuff, right? But in fact, he woke up, he usually was a very heavy sleeper, but he woke up that night and he just knew something was wrong, right? So I think somebody nudged him to wake up. But I told him relatively, I mean, he knew I had died, right? He was right there. He saw the whole thing. But I told him relatively quickly, within a couple of days, hey, this is what I experienced on the other side. But it was quickly sort of poo-pooed and, oh, well, that doesn't really happen. And so I then had to go within and start to integrate my understanding. But I remember the next day looking on the computer, because I wanted to keep all the mathematics, you see. I wanted to keep the math. Like, I understood quantum physics. I understood string theory. I understood all of this stuff that I had no way of understanding. I had no formal education. I dropped out of high school when I was 15 years old. So I had no idea, but I was trying to grasp onto it and keep it and keep it and keep it. And then it started to fade away slowly. I was able to keep some stuff. And then for me, what then started happening is I got direction and downloads on what I needed to do to heal my body. I got all of this insight on these are the things you have to do, and these are the things you have to research. You have to stop. It wasn't a voice of like, you have to, but it was a sense of, you basically have to stop doing what you're doing. It's killing you. And these are the things you need to go and investigate and explore that I also had no way of knowing about. And in fact, it wasn't until years later that I knew who this was. But the very next day, Guy, I went back and I was infusing in the chair again because I have the PICC line installed and they're pumping the medicine full of me. And so I remember infusing in the chair, just thinking, God, how am I gonna get myself out of this? I just died yesterday, what do I do now? And this man's voice, an older man's voice, was in my head going, I'm getting better and better every day in every way. You're getting better and better every day in every way. And it would just go on repeat, on repeat. And I didn't realize until years later, till I had heard a lecture by this man, Emile Couey. And it was his exact phrase that he would use in all the lectures. And it was his exact voice that I heard in the lecture that was playing in my head. And it would just play and play and play. So it was that kind of cool stuff that started to happen to me after the near-death experience that I think really helped me to reform myself.
The next question for you then, and again, I'm just thinking about people that I interact with and people that are certainly searching and on the journey. Clearly, you're in a very challenging spot. You've had this experience. You're hearing this voice. You're starting to, insights and wisdom is coming through. How do you then find it within you to get beyond all the pain, all the drugs, all the health, chronic illness challenges, to keep going, to then leaning to, be who you are today? I mean,
Yeah, well, that's a really important and interesting question because I remember lying in my bed, which I did when I wasn't in the hospital chair infusing. And I thought, God, how am I going to shift and change myself? And one of the things that they showed me while I was up there is sound frequency is so key to our human evolution. And so I sat in bed and I researched sound healing and I came across some meditations. And so I literally would just listen to this meditation by Kelly Howell. She's got a voice of an angel, and it was this healing meditation. And I would vision myself and believe that I could walk without a walker. And I would see myself walking without a walker and being slender, not being 240 pounds. And it wasn't long. Okay, so that was my first step, by the way, just laying in bed listening to meditation. It wasn't long before I thought, I have the strength and energy to try to use my walker and go on a little bitty walk every day. And so I would just do that and kind of incrementally increase. But there was a lot of mental processes that I had to go through. I had to talk myself through the pain. I would say, your legs feel great, your legs feel great, your legs feel great, when really it felt like I was walking around on amputated stubs. I mean, that's how bad I hurt. And so to your point, it was one little baby step after one little baby step on top of one little baby step. And I just kept going. And the words that I heard when I was in that astral plane, in that healing space, when the group energy came to me was, if you come back, you'll have a very challenging time, but it'll be well worth it. And I got the sense that I'd be able to be an inspiration and serve as some sort of catalyst for people. So that was kind of my drive, my motivation. I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it to show people that anything's possible because listen, there's nothing special about me. I don't have any special pedigree. I'm a high school dropout. I'm not particularly beautiful or smart in any sort of a way. I'm an average person. But I think knowing that the average person can bring their body back from the brink or even back from death if you're so inclined to. And I do believe we have a choice. I don't believe you can die before it's your time. I really don't. I mean, I think you could try, but I don't think it works. I think it's either your time or it's not. And what I saw on the other side, if it's okay to share this, is I saw as a soul, you have multiple exit points that you can choose to take. And at any moment, if you're in an exit point, as long as you're mostly dead, like Billy Crystal says in the movie The Princess Bride, and not all dead, you can come back. You can choose to say, okay, I was just kidding. I'm going to come on back. And I've also seen people that are on death's door who fight it because they still have unfinished business, and they stretch out that death because they're not ready to go. And the doctor's like, any day now, any minute, and they are a year, 2 years, they keep going and going because either they're so afraid or they have unfinished business. So I really think we get to play with how we live out this life and how we choose to heal ourselves and how we choose to die and
Fascinating.
live.
It made me think, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but Peter Panago. I had him on this podcast a while back, but he had a near-death experience where he was rock ice climbing and he froze up there and had a complete, very similar, same, but different kind of experience, very detailed, very thorough. And he was saying when he was coming back, it opened up and he had these choice points where he could almost as consciousness pick his path on the way back in.
Totally.
And it's like, oh, I'm going,
Yes.
like he said intuitively, I'm taking this one, and then he went back and then he woke up and managed to claw his way to the main road afterward. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yes, we have so much choice, and we didn't get told that we have choices, right? We didn't get trained that we have so much choice in life and in death. And so I think it's so cool just to hear from people who have experienced that we do have so much choice. And it's just such a beautiful
I'm
thing.
fascinated as well with, just from your perspective after everything you've experienced, do you then, looking back, that you had made a choice before you came in to know that that experience was going to happen, or was it a random act that happened at that point? Because you hear many different philosophies about, well, I didn't manifest this. I didn't want to be beaten or had this trauma or had this problem during our stage of life. And obviously it can be very traumatic and challenging experiences, but you've gone and had this incredible experience to put something into context for you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I love this and appreciate this question so much because when I was in my 20s, I had a tarot and palm reading from a random lady on the street. She looked at my palm and she said, "Oh, I see that you may die very young and what by the time you're 30. But you have another path that you might very well have a very long life." Now, what she didn't know is I had always felt that I would die by the time I was 30. I thought I would not make it past 30. So to your question, I love that you asked it, is I do think we script our birthday and time and date. I think we script our parents. I think we script, here are the choice points that I'm going to give myself. Here are the experiences that I may choose to have. And when I say choose, I don't mean on the emotional, egoic level. I mean on the vibrational level, right? Because as we are vibrating through life, I personally could have made many different health choices and never gotten to the place that I did. Right? I could have not gone with the doctor I did, or I could have started eating healthier sooner, or I could have managed my stress, but I didn't choose to do any of those. I was in a low vibration. So I got a very low vibrational experience in life. And what I personally think is we have these lessons, these learnings, and our vibrational alignment then kind of directs us towards how we're going to experience that, right? For example, you could be walking down the street in a really high vibration, see a group of people coming towards you and be able to shift the energy there and nothing happens to you, versus you're in a low frequency, you match their energy, you go into fear, you become a victim that day, right?
Yeah. This is a big question, and so answer it any way you want. But because from the medical system, you were medicated to treat symptoms. We put out fires. We never really look at or take the battery out the smoke alarm when there's fires going on, right? And from your perspective, because clearly you had chronic conditions, what steps did you take then to heal, to get your body back to its natural homeostasis, back to this vibrant, healthy, glowing being that you are? You know, because there must be one hell of a journey in that too, right? And
Oh, oh, absolutely. Well, to break it down for you, I mean, and the listeners, I already knew that the medicine that I was taking was in fact killing me. I knew that I felt worse and worse and worse the more medicine they gave me. I felt worse and worse the more antibiotics and drugs that they gave me. So I knew that that wasn't working. Now, I didn't know, I had no understanding of nutrition. So one of the first things I did was I sought out a health coach. I sought out a nutritionist. And she sort of looked at me and she said, do you think you might be gluten intolerant? Do you think you might have some issues with dairy? And I said, no, I grew up on gluten and dairy. And she said, no, I know, but your body's not working, right? You've got all this chronic pain and all these chronic symptoms. And I sort of looked at her like she was dumb, just to say, don't you understand? I eat these things all the time. I mean, I would sit down and have a bowl of Frosted Flakes with a cup of sugar and a half a gallon of
yeah,
milk. You know, I'm 240 pounds. You got to feed the machine. So I would, and I would have candy bars and ice cream. So I knew that there was some truth, though, to what she was saying. So I started to clean up my diet. I started to add in at first. I didn't take anything away. She said, look, don't take anything away. I want you to just add in smoothies. Just add in a green smoothie. And here's the thing, and I think you're such a great example of this too in your work with your retreats. But this woman's name was Shelly. And I remember I feel terrible. I go to meet with Shelly, and she's got this sparkle in her eye. She's got this magical, beautiful quality. And she was older than me. And I thought, God, if I could just even get 50% of what she has, I'll do whatever this woman says. I don't care what she tells me to do, but I'll do whatever she says. So I started to do that work. And then I also knew that intuitively, I knew that I was broken inside. I knew that I had all of this trauma and all of this pain that I had never dealt with. So I enrolled myself in I think it was like a 3-month outpatient program for depression and anxiety. And I started doing the work of addressing my feelings. And I don't know about your listeners, but I had been raised in a household where it's really not acceptable to have feelings, okay? As long as you're the good girl and as long as you do as you're told and don't express yourself, you're good. But if you have an actual feeling, if you need to cry, if you need to, be frustrated, it's really not that okay. So, and no shame on my parents. It's just they were raised that way too. They had it even worse than we did, right? As kids. So I one by one started picking apart the layers of the onion. And one of the things I heard up there is it's the thoughts you think, it's the foods you eat, it's the feelings that you feel, and all of that combined is the master recipe, and you've got to address all of it. So I just started to go and started to pick apart the layers of the onion and start to unpick the knot, so to speak. And honestly, it took me about 5 years. I died in 2005. And in 2010, I was finally starting to come out of it. I was finally starting to hit my stride. I had lost over 100 pounds. I was back down to my fighting weight, 125. And, I still have the picture of me holding up the pants. It looks like, I'm half the person I once was. Right. And so it was just a series of things. But I also want to say, when you're that sick, there's a part of me, I'm sort of that classic overachiever where I also threw everything I had at this because I wanted my life back. And so I started going to see an acupuncturist. I started switching out my pharmaceuticals for supplements. And I started switching, I would make these swaps. I went to see the chiropractor. I went and got massages. I even saw a monkey healer, this lady who screamed at me like she was a monkey for an hour. I'm literally trying to do everything.
Wow. Mm.
Yes, I'm trying to do everything I can. I started tapping, I'm doing all of the things, enrolling in courses because by golly, I knew that healing was possible. And I had seen a vision of this healing. And one of the cool things that happened to me along the way, it was very early on in my healing journey, as I when I came back, I couldn't read. I'd lost the ability to read just because my mind was so scrambled. So my husband drove me to a used bookstore, and I thought, well, I can't read, but I'll get an audiobook. And so I roll in with my walker, and at least I'm out of the house, right? I'm getting out for the day. I feel so good. And I'm in the aisle of all the audiobooks, and one flies off the shelf. It was almost as if someone pushed it off. And I kind of hold on to my walker, I bend down, I pick it up, and it was Inspiration by Wayne Dyer. And I didn't know who Wayne Dyer was. I had never heard of this chap before, but I listened to it. And there was something about his voice, that was a vibrational frequency that started to work inside of me. So it was that, along with all of it, right? All of it combined, but it was a long road. But what I think is the coolest is that with each passing month and each passing 6 months, my husband's dad was a doctor, and I would ask him, I'd say, Pops, do you think I could ever make it back to 50%? And he'd say, well, I think if you work really hard, you can get back to 45, maybe 50%. And so I'd work really hard, and I'd eat more cleanly, and I would do more things. And then I'd see him again, and it'd be another 6 months. And I'd say, Pops, how do you think I'm doing? He said, wow, I think you've hit 50%. And I'd say, do you ever think I can hit 75? And he'd say, well, I think if you work really hard, you could possibly hit 60, maybe 70. And so I kept on working, and it was a long road. It didn't happen overnight, but what I can tell you is it takes 7 years to mostly replace all of the cells in your body. So, I mean, if I were to say to anybody, would you love a new body in 7 years? If in 7 years I told you, if you live this way, you could have a younger, more youthful, more glowy, more vital, more energized body, would you do it? And I could 100% guarantee that you would have it, even if it's 7 years in time. When you should be aging, you won't look as old and you won't feel as old. And that's what I think is really important, because when you do the work, with every bite you take, with every thought you think, with every feeling you feel, you are creating that new body. And you're either creating a vibrant, healthy body, or you're not.
Love it. My old mentor used to say to me, and because I love breaking down the body, but you actually got about 1 million cells coming online every second, stem cells, brand new, waiting to receive information. And they will always tune into the homeostasis that is currently set up in this current environment. So it makes complete sense then, if you're starting to visualize and think a different thought, feel a different emotion and feeling, you're actually sending a different signal to the cell that has an opportunity to express itself differently in that moment. So every second is a choice, right?
Exactly.
It
is a choice. Right. And that's the thing. I think most people don't understand, you have choice. You have so much choice, but it's you have the choice. And that means taking actual responsibility for the choices that you're making. And that's the toughest part.
1,000%. Wow. But again, it's that response ability. We have the ability to respond differently. So,
I love that.
Because when we think of responsibility, it's like, well, I've got so much stress. I got to look after my kids. I'm a dad. I got a job. I got this. I got that. I got this. And you're telling me to have more responsibility? Forget about it, and then it just feels like a weight that's getting heavier and heavier. But when we start to think about the moment and the ability to respond differently, we can start to develop a very different relationship to it and start to empower ourselves, because we're always looking outside of ourselves to find an answer, isn't it, when it's always within. What I want to unpack a little bit more, because for me, you said something critical. And you, even when you spoke about the thoughts, the feelings, and the nutrition, the food aspect, right? Because I'd love to get your thoughts if we kind of unpack that a little bit more, because from everything I've done in the podcast, I truly believe that unexpressed emotions and things that have been held at trauma is where problems arise from in the vehicle. But at the same time, we don't necessarily make lifestyle choices, especially around nutrition, to support the vehicle, the body. Because quite often we'll see people come to an event, a workshop, but they'll bring sugar candy in, and they'll be bringing processed carbohydrates and constantly getting that sugar high and rush. And I'm thinking, wow, you've come to address, but maybe it's the old fitness trainer, and when I had a nutritional company, I don't know. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this, because some things get left out of spirituality as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you that trauma stuck in the body is at the foundation of what our problem is. And by the way, one of the things I think is really important to remember is it's traumatic being here as a human. Just coming into the body. I mean, the frequency I felt up there and the amazing, it was so incredible. And then coming back into the body is traumatic. Not to mention that you come back into at least 7 generations of also trauma in your DNA with epigenetics and probably lifetime, multiple lifetimes. So, it's one of those things where it just is something that we have to address the trauma within us. So I don't want people to mistake the feelings you feel. If you are not dealing with a trauma, you actually have to feel to heal, as you talk about a lot as well. You have to go in, you have to feel that feeling, you have to express it, get it moving through the body. And I think what happens for me with people is if you've got stuck traumatic stuff and stuck feelings, you then naturally gravitate to those foods of suppression, right? It's like throwing dirt on top of something. We just bury it in a hole and throw dirt on top of it. But the foods of suppression are the carbohydrates, the sugars, caffeine, alcohol, drugs, even chocolate. Those are all foods of suppression to keep those feelings down. And you don't really know what feelings you have in there sometimes for many people until they do a cleanse or maybe a juice feast or something, so where they don't have the foods of suppression to come in. And what I can say is, you and I have both seen this a million times with clients and students, is once you get people processing those feelings, you just feel lighter and brighter and things can really shift. And then you don't need the foods of suppression all that much. So I see it as an in tandem process where you can't just address one thing. If you're just trying to address food, it doesn't work. And if you're just trying to address the trauma, you need to kind of come at it from all sides and get everything working in harmony together.
And then you gain momentum, which inspires different actions and choices because you're starting to feel different. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you start to then become the person and your identity starts to change. And I always talk about this, like you have to change that identity level. And I sort of hit the place where, and you can take this on, if you guys are listening right now, you can take this on for yourself, because this is one that really served me. Nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Because, a lot of times people say, well, it tastes so good. Yeah, but nothing tastes as good as healthy feels.
Yeah, totally. I want to pivot the conversation into the last part of the podcast, but I've heard you speak about, because when I checked out your YouTube channel as well, because if you think about your experiences, we haven't even got to why we're here. Why have you had those experiences? Moving on. And you've also spoke about 3D and 5D consciousness as well. And I'd love you to just talk to all that a little bit, if that's okay. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I tend to think that one of the reasons why you are listening to this podcast right now, everybody, is because you are here to help shift the consciousness of the planet. I believe that we have been doing the same consciousness for way many a year, and it's time for a shift. And I believe that right now is the shift. I believe that this is the healing lifetime where we actually get to come in this lifetime and be given all of the tools, all of the support, all of the wisdom of the ages to come in and heal the body vessel itself so that we stop perpetuating the trauma and the beliefs and the patterns of behavior that we've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. And so, from a consciousness level, from a very third dimensional consciousness level, it is one that is born in me and my stuff. What can I get? What land can I have as my own? How much stuff can I have? And any near death survivor will probably tell you, you get to take nothing with you. Nothing goes except your soul growth, your consciousness expansion. That's what goes with you. So, from a fifth dimensional perspective, I believe that's what we're trying to shift the planet and its people into, is a more higher level consciousness perspective. And if I could just make this analogy, so if you had a piece of paper lying on the table and there's an ant walking along and it sees the piece of paper and the ant says, oh, there's a piece of paper. Oh, that looks really big, right? And in space and time, it's there with the ant. And if I come along and take that piece of paper, the ant, and I put it maybe on the shelf, the ant goes, oh my God, it's magic. The paper vanished, right? But the paper didn't vanish. It's just on the shelf. And so from the ant's level of consciousness, it feels weird. It feels magical. It feels like, well, I'm not sure what happened to the paper. But from a higher level of consciousness, we know that the paper's just moved. And so as you raise up in your consciousness, you can move up into what I call fifth dimensional consciousness, which is not engaging in some of those harder, denser frequencies, those success matrices. For example, it's who I am is what I do. Who I am is how much money I make. Who I am is what college I went to or how well my kids did in the play last week. That is not you. In fifth dimensional consciousness, you realize you are a multidimensional being of light. You are a soul here in a body, and you're here to have soul expanding experiences, and you're here to help to shift what it means to be a human being in a body. And what I felt like up there, what I most walked away with, Guy, was this feeling of, as this God consciousness, divine consciousness, I wanted for the things that I was coming through to understand that they too were God consciousness, that they too were universal consciousness. And so part of what I think is happening from 3D to 5D, 3D is I am human, I'm this body, I'm my identity. 5D consciousness is I'm universal intelligence happening to inhabit this physical body vehicle at this time, and my consciousness extends out and beyond this physical vehicle too, and I have access to higher levels of consciousness. Hopefully I choose to do that all day long and keep my access to that high consciousness going as much as I possibly can. I don't get distracted with my reactions and my responses.
Just a question that's coming in, and I'm just thinking of people listening, because not everybody's had a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience or a mystical experience or whatever that might be. I mean, it took me to have mystical experiences to go, oh my God, okay. Every book I'd ever read, every search, every meaning that led me to a point where it all made sense in a moment. But I had to have that experience, otherwise I would have still been in my head trying to think about it. So, what would you say to listeners that are listening to this? Well, they say, "Well, it's okay for you, Alyssa. You've had this experience. I don't want to die and have a near-death experience. To experience unity consciousness, I'm just trying to get on with my life and move through." I guess the question would be, what would you recommend to nurture that relationship, or something to at least lean in, to surrender more, to trust more, and actually get into the heart more, whether we've had these experiences or not?
Mm. Amazing, amazing question. So, one of the things that I love to do is work with brainwave frequencies and light, because if you try to access higher states of consciousness from your left brain, you will never get there from there. It is not possible. So, one of the things I was shown on the other side is you simply must go into the programming brainwave and access different levels of consciousness, which we all have access to. And you don't need drugs and you don't need to die, which is cool. It's a beautiful thing. So I love the brainwave frequency of alpha waves or theta waves. And a quick YouTube search, you can find these. You probably have some alpha wave and theta wave programs. I do too, right? But it helps you access a level of consciousness that then sets aside your personality self. And what most people find is they start to access this level of galactic universal consciousness that some people, when it first happens, they'll get afraid. They'll be like, oh, I don't know what this is. I've never been this conscious before, and they'll stop it. But if you can push yourself past that point and allow yourself to relax into trusting that, yes, your body's fine and you can be more conscious, it's a really beautiful experience. So all people really need to do is start out with that alpha wave or theta wave meditation. And I also recommend getting grounded, being present, on the ground, on the earth. That also very much helps when you're listening to this stuff. It helps the body relax and feel really safe. And then one of the things I do with clients is I work with light frequency, because the brain doesn't actually know the difference between actual light and imagined light. So when we start to then use theta waves or alpha waves along with light frequency technology, you can shift the body very quickly, but you also have these incredibly mystical experiences where you get instant downloads from your higher self. You can ask any question and get fabulous direction. If you had a disease, you could say, my higher self, show me what's happening here, and then show me the solution, and you'd be guided and shown exactly what's going on and what your next steps are. And people have these experiences all the time, but they just need to get past that left brain. Get it to, we in most of the world, we have not fostered the left and right brain connection. Only in places like India do they do that, and some places like Thailand. But most places in the world, we've completely cut off the brains. They're not really talking to each other very much. So the goal is to start to practice that meditation enough to where your left brain sort of calms down and then starts to engage with your right brain, and then they can both work in tandem. And then every day will be a mystical experience. Every day you'll have magic. Every day you'll have miracles. And life gets pretty freaking fantastic pretty
Beautiful
quickly.
answer. Thank you. The curious guy in me just wants to ask you, when you say light frequency and technology, are you talking about actual light that's you're using, or is it from visualization?
So it's both, yes and yes. There's a device that I use called Brain Tap, and you put it over your ears and over your eyes. And your ears actually have light receptors in them. Most people don't know that your ears have light receptors. Why would that be? right? Why would your ears have light receptors in them? So this machine puts light in your ears, it puts light in your eyes, and starts to really remap your brain. In fact, we use a lot in trauma healing. In fact, the military here has a big program with Brain Tap where they are funding the post-traumatic stress disorder of the military, and they're using Brain Tap to quickly help these guys be normal again, not have panic and freakouts. But I also use imagined light. And so I'll use like golden light, platinum light, all for different sorts of things. If somebody's got an ailment going on, we might work with more emerald gold lights to bring that into the body and have them imagine that, because the body's cells and DNA can get that, and the DNA are like, oh yeah, I recognize this. This is cool. I like this, and it starts to, like you mentioned before, create that environment where the new cells that are being made can entrain to that new
fantastic.
vision.
Thank you. I'll check that out. Just to wrap up the podcast, a couple of questions to finish. First of all, what's on the cards for you at the moment? What are you doing? What's keeping you busy?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So I'm right in the middle of our Divine Light Energy Healers Academy certification. So I run an academy for light workers, light leaders, coaches, acupuncturists, doctors to learn the energy healing technique that I learned on the other side. So I brought it all into a certification course, and that's what I'm doing now. And we've got a lot of great mentors in the course, and it's just a really cool thing. So that's what I'm doing. That's what's keeping me busy. That and swimming in the ocean, which I try to make it to the ocean every single day.
Amazing. Well, you're in Hawaii. You're going to have plenty of ocean around you, aren't you?
You do
That's
have
for
to take
sure.
advantage.
Last question to finish, which I ask everyone on the show, is everything that we've covered today, what would you like our listeners to ponder on?
You have a choice. You have a choice in the life you get to live. And if you don't like the life that you're living right now in any form or fashion, I truly believe that you are powerful. You're a powerful being of light, and you can choose to shift it. And you can also choose to shift it so much that when you shift yourself, you know that you're actually helping shift others around you, because we act like cell towers. We actually help others entrain with frequency. And so when you vibrate up, when you clean up your body vehicle, when you deal with a trauma, you actually create a massive ripple effect that would blow your mind if you were able to see it on a subatomic particle level. And it's worth it. So if you're feeling called to, get some support, I didn't do it alone. I threw everything I had at it, but it was worth it. And so I just want to invite you to lean in.
Beautiful, Alysa. Thank you. I'll make sure there's links in the show notes for everyone if they want to come and check out your work and everything that you do. And can you just say your URL out loud as well for everyone? So,
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to raiseyourvibrationtoolkit.com and get a great Raise Your Vibration toolkit that you can instantly use to tune yourself.
Beautiful. Alysa, wow, I was captivated. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And wow, there's lots to chew on there. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Guys, thank you. This has been such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful to be here. So
You're very welcome.
thank you.